Today I'm going to be going over Lesson 4 for Alexander the Great, and this homework assignment is due on Friday. So just looking over what the questions are going to be asking us, we're going to be doing some causes and effects. Number 2 is, how did Alexander become king of Macedonia? How did Alexander display his leadership qualities? What was Hellenistic culture and how did it begin? And our critical thinking question is focused on solving complex problems. And the question is, how might the discoveries made by Hippocrates have changed people's lives during the Hellenistic Age? Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking for. We're going to go ahead and do the causes and effects at the end. And just to review, so a cause is the thing that makes something else happen. The effect is the result. So, for example, if you come to school wearing a raincoat and rain boots and an umbrella, the cause would be that it rained outside. It rained outside, so the effect was you wore your rain gear. Okay? So let's get started with reading this. Alexander's conquests. Philip II was the king of Macedonia. After he was killed, his 20-year-old son, Alexander, became king. 2 years later, in 334 BC, Alexander invaded the Persian Empire. During a major battle, Alexander told his army not to retreat from the larger Persian army. Retreat means go back. So even though the Persian army was bigger, he told his army, we're not going back. We're going to keep fighting. He showed his leadership by ordering his army to attack the Persians. The Persians ran away. Alexander's army had won. Alexander then conquered Syria and Phoenicia. Alexander also took over Egypt and was crowned pharaoh. A great empire. In 331 BC, Alexander's army fought and beat the larger Persian army again. Alexander then led his army eastward. The army won every battle it fought. 5 years after his march started, the soldiers were in India. They were very tired and ready to stop fighting. Alexander marched his army back toward Greece. He died on the way back. The empire he created was huge. It spread across Europe, Asia, and Africa. During his nearly 13 years in power, Alexander spread Greek culture. He also took on many Asian ways. A new civilization rose from this blend of Greek and Asian cultures. We call this period the Hellenistic Age. The young king is remembered as Alexander the Great. The Hellenistic Age. After Alexander's death, 3 of his generals divided the empire among themselves. For 300 years, Hellenistic culture spread. New cities were founded in Europe, Northern Africa, and Western Asia. The cities became centers of Greek culture. Trade grew between Hellenistic cities in far-off parts of the world. Alexandria was a city in Egypt. It became the greatest center of trade and learning. It had the busiest port of its time and a great library. Discovery and invention. During the Hellenistic Age, Greek science and mathematics reached their peaks. Hippocrates was a doctor who looked for natural causes of diseases. Today, he is often called the father of medicine. He believed a good diet and lifestyle were needed for good health. Archimedes was a famous inventor and mathematician. He made discoveries about levers. He also improved pulleys for carrying heavy objects. Pythagoras was a mathematician whose ideas about numbers led to the study of geometry. Euclid was the most important mathematician of his time. Students today still study his system of plane geometry. Okay, a lot of information there. Let's look at what we're looking for first. how did Alexander become king of Macedonia? And how did Alexander display his leadership qualities? That happened back here in the first chunk where it was talking about Alexander and his accomplishments. So let's read some of this again. So, Philip II was the king of Macedonia. After he was killed, his 20-year-old son Alexander became king. So, how did he become king of Macedonia? Well, his dad was king, and when he died, when he was killed, that's when Alexander became the king. So right off the bat, we have the answer to number 2. I'm going to highlight it here too. So that is going to be our answer for number 2, because remember, number 1 is the cause and effect that we're going to come back to. So now we're looking for how Alexander displayed his leadership qualities. So how did he show that he was a good leader? Okay. 2 years later, in 334 BC, Alexander invaded the Persian Empire. During a major battle, Alexander told his army not to retreat from the larger Persian army. He showed his leadership by ordering his army to attack the Persians. So not only did he tell them not to give up, but he also led them in there and led them to a victory. So I'm going to highlight this, and this is going to be our answer for number 3. So that's for this one, how he displayed his leadership qualities. All right. So number 4, what was Hellenistic culture and how did it begin? All right. So that starts down at the end of this section, and then we'll go into this section, which it gives you a big clue here because it's titled the Hellenistic Age. So that's where we're going to find out some more details about what the Hellenistic Age was. Okay. So Alexander started in Greece, which was in Europe, and then him and his army continued to travel east across Asia and also some down into Africa. He ended up going all the way to India. So during that time, he spread Greek culture and he took on Asian ways. So basically, it was the combination of Greek and Asian culture. That was a new civilization rose from this blend of Greek and Asian cultures. We call this period the Hellenistic Age. Okay. So what Hellenistic culture was a combination of Greek and Asian ways and culture. So the Hellenistic Age is a blend of Greek and Asian cultures. But we're not done answering this question. So this is how it began. It was a blend of Greek and Asian cultures. And it started, once again, because right here, you see that Alexander's conquest and army spread all the way across Europe, Asia, and Africa. So right here, this blend of Europe and Asia from Alexander's conquests is what created Hellenistic culture. All right, let's look at our critical thinking question. How might the discoveries made by Hippocrates have changed people's lives during the Hellenistic Age? Let's refresh our memories on what Hippocrates did. Okay. During the Hellenistic Age, Greek science and mathematics reached their peaks. That means the top. Hippocrates was a doctor who looked for natural causes of diseases. So, natural causes, he was trying to figure out what was really causing people to get sick. He wasn't blaming it on the Greek gods. So he's considered to be the father of medicine. He believed a good diet and lifestyle were needed for good health. But now we're not just going to write this down, because it's not asking us who he was or what he believed. We want to know, how did his beliefs and what he did, how did his discoveries change people's lives? So his discoveries about natural causes of diseases and believing that you had to eat good, healthy food and have a healthy lifestyle were needed in order to be healthy. How do you think that that affected people who were living during that time? How do you think that that impacted their health, how long they lived, things like that? So that's what you're going to write for this one. Okay? And then finally, our causes and effects. So here we have a cause. Philip II dies. What happened as a result of him dying? Let's look right here that we have it highlighted already for number 2. After Philip died, after he was killed, his 20-year-old son Alexander became king. So after Philip II dies, Alexander becomes king. Now we're going to look for what happened that led Alexander to become Pharaoh. So we're going to look for this key word here, Pharaoh. Okay. Alexander then conquered Syria and Phoenicia. He also took over Egypt and was crowned Pharaoh. So, right here, what happened first that caused the other one? So, he took over Egypt, and then as a result of that, he was crowned Pharaoh. They have he was crowned Pharaoh, or becomes Pharaoh here. What happened? He took over Egypt. After he took over Egypt, he became the Pharaoh. All right, and the last one, we're looking for the cause that led to the effect of the Hellenistic Age begins. We talked about that right here for how it begins. Okay, so I'm going to leave this one up to you because we went over it for number 4. The cause that led to the Hellenistic Age's start. Okay, so that's the homework, and I'm just going to show you an example of what I'm looking for restating the question. So for number 2, how did Alexander become king of Macedonia? Alexander, I'm using right from the question. Alexander became, we're just going to change the O to an A, became king of Macedonia when, and then you're going to put the answer. This next one, number 3, how did Alexander display his leadership qualities? Alexander displayed his leadership qualities when and then you're going to put the answer. What was Hellenistic culture and how did it begin? So, Hellenistic culture was, I'm going to write my answer there, and then I'm going to start a new sentence. Notice how I have capitals at the beginning of every sentence. So this is going to be a sentence. I'm going to put a period when I'm done, and I'm going to start with my capital. It began, change the I to an A, began when, or because, depending on how you want to make your sentence there. And our last one, how might the discoveries made by Hippocrates have changed people's lives during the Hellenistic Age? So I'm going to say Hippocrates' discoveries may have changed people's lives because, and then put my answer. For this, we don't really need it because it's just a cause and effect. They're simple things, okay? So I hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in class.